markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is the Bloomberg Business Flash.
It's 11:40 on Wall Street. We do check markets all day long here at Bloomberg. Right now, we've got the S&P 500 index trading a little changed, and this Bloomberg Business Flash is brought to you by Interactive Brokers. Trade over 10,000 U.S. stocks and ETFs, U.S. equity index options, U.S. treasuries, and more on your timetable. Learn more at ibkr.com/around-the-clock. Right now, we got the S&P. We'll call that little changed up 0.1% higher by 966.26 where we stand. We've got the Dow down 145, drop there of 0.3%, while Nasdaq higher now by 93. The Nasdaq Composite Index up by about 0.4%. The Mag 7 Index.
Hello, my name is DrPaulCottrell. This live stream is on November 19th. I will also be reposting on all my channels, YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble, X, Substack, Patreon, lots of different formats. Also audio on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and on Podomatic and Apple Podcast. Thank you for joining. I greatly appreciate it. All these videos are for free. Please help support the work by donating on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. I have great products. I have ebooks, supplements, and course material on immunology and pulmonology. So take a look at those. Let me just briefly talk about just a couple products before we start talking about the news. Quite a bit of news has transpired since my last broadcast. Please also watch Fuse episode 18 with John Hogue. We start talking in detail about some of the problems that are potentially on the horizon for 2026. It's really important that you listen to that broadcast. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver soaps. You can get them in lemongrass, charcoal tea tree, lavender, and also in peppermint. Very high quality structural nano silver soaps. Use them every day. They're great for your skin. Very high quality, and you should use them especially during the fall and the winter season. Another great supplement that's part of my anti-aging protocol are Cleanse, which is 30 parts per million, or Max 35, which is 35 parts per million. Take a teaspoon a day every day, swish in your mouth, gargle about 20 seconds and swallow it. This will boost up your innate immune system, improve your oral cavity, your oral pharynx, help the health of your epithelial cells, especially in the oral pharynx. If you're not feeling well or someone around you is not feeling well, especially during the winter season, take a tablespoon or two a day. I've been doing this protocol for more than 5.5 years. So please go to my store, get the Max 35 or the Cleanse, take it every day. Boost up that immune system. And a great product that I have that is very high quality is ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is the most bioavailable form of CoQ10 that you can take. Most people that take CoQ10, you're not taking the best. I offer the best on my store. And that's not hyperbole. There's nothing better than, in terms of CoQ10, than ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is the most bioavailable form of CoQ10 that you can take. And I've partnered up with the best vendor for ubiquinol. So please go to my store, get the ubiquinol, take it every day. And what this will do is soak up free radicals, help the health of your mitochondria, boost up your energy levels. The cells will perform better, your tissues will perform better, and it will help to protect your neurons. Super important, especially if you're 40 years of age or older. Please go to my store and get the ubiquinol. It's very high quality. And whenever you make an order on my store, make sure you use discount 5. You get $5 off any order. It's all caps, discount 5. All right, let's listen into Bloomberg.
Just New York City look, just from an office perspective.
Absolutely. So in the trophy category, you're below 5% availability. So low single digits, very, very high performing. Again, you do have that kind of tale of two cities going on where the lower end of the market isn't performing as strongly. but we're seeing very high absorption in the top category, very strong demand being led again, financial services sector, tech sector, which is coming back. And you're having a little bit of an AI boom here in New York City. A lot of companies coming out for the West Coast that want to get into New York City's tech talent, which is bigger than it's ever been. It's great to see that happening here in New York City.
That is super interesting. Talk a little bit more about that. What kind of space are they looking for? How quickly are they growing? And where do they want to be situated? Do they want to be in Midtown near banks? Do they want to be downtown where it's always been more of that? And what's the New York name for our tech spirits? Silicon Alley? No.
Yeah, maybe.
Silicon Alley.
I'd say Midtown South and then south of that. They do like to be more downtown for the most part.
Not Midtown then, really.
Although AI is a little bit of everywhere because it's also, very much where we are right now, right? Because it's even in this building, you guys have an AI division and the talent here is going to be in your building as well. So it really is everywhere. But in terms of how quickly it's growing, I'll talk about San Francisco first, then we'll mimic how it's here as well. It's pretty incredible. It's growing as quickly as I've ever seen it in my 20-year career. There's several companies in San Francisco that started less than 5 years ago that are already looking for over 100,000 square feet. I think there's 7 as of the last count, but the number's changing so quickly it's hard to keep track of. And what you're really seeing is a commitment to the office space. So how interesting is this, right? They're able to build new companies. They certainly have access to technology, that, and they're a tech-first company, but why are they choosing to be in the office? Well, they're solving big problems. And when they're doing it, they want to be doing it face-to-face, and they're choosing to do it mostly in higher-end buildings, creative buildings. They love high ceilings. They love to have natural light. And one thing that's really interesting is a lot of them are thinking about productivity hacks. So how do they get snacks that are elevating their productivity?
These guys are, I'll tell you, I'm going to pivot to something else. Right now, the market is trading at 6,632. I still have a target of year end of 6,850 to about 6,950. I've lowered it a little bit. It was at between 6,800 to about 7,000. There has been a sell-off. It coincides with the sell-off with Bitcoin. I'm not saying it's causal, but it coincides. It's associative, or correlated, but it's not causal. All right. There was a big Bitcoin drop on Friday, and there seems to be market manipulation that's going on in the Bitcoin market. All right. Now there's lots of people on both sides, bears and bulls, saying, "Oh, it's going to rally," and then some people are saying that it's going to go down. I think it's a manipulated market because there are whales that are going in and out. A lot of ETF outflows. So I would, if you're not in the market for Bitcoin, if you're not in it right now, I would say don't go in and just wait until it kind of stabilizes, maybe into 2026. If you are in it, then you really need to pay attention to your risk assessment. If you can manage your risk, if it does go down, then okay. But if you can't, you should get out because it's unstable. Bitcoin will drop more if the equity market will drop. It's not necessarily true that if the equity market goes up, that Bitcoin will go up. There's something fundamental. Some people say it's because of the investigations and the seizure of the Asian Bitcoin holder. I don't know, but there seems to be a market manipulation. Now, not too far into the future, there's probably going to be some sort of application with quantum computing. Now, if quantum computing does take hold within the next 24 months or 36 months, then it's going to radically solve the equations that mine a coin. That means that coins will mint faster. The supply will go up. That means Bitcoin will go down. So people need to pay attention to this. All right. Now, for me, I think it's a manipulated market. I would not go in. Now, 6,000. So the S&P 500 is trading at 6,628 at the moment. And once I see the VIX, I'll let you know. But the thing is that as we get closer to the end of the year, we got 5 weeks left. The probability of it getting to 7,000 is radically diminishing. Not too far ago, last week, it was possible that we would see 6,000 or 7,000. All right. But AI, the bubble may be starting. Now, NVIDIA is supposed to release some data, the revenue. Job data is coming out tomorrow. The shutdown is over, but now the economic data flood is coming, and that needs to be digested. If the Federal Reserve lowers rates, or the data suggests that the Federal Reserve will lower rates in December, we're probably going to see a further increase in equities. And this is the reason why I say that if you're in equities, don't bail out. If you have some cash on hand, it behooves you to dollar cost average in. And I suspect by year end that we'll be at 6,850 to 6,900. Now, that's assuming that the Federal Reserve will lower rates. If the Federal Reserve doesn't lower rates, then we probably will be at 6,600 by year end, maybe 6,700. But I think there's a high probability that the Federal Reserve will lower rates. The job market isn't that stable, it seems, but we're going to be getting data. Now, people on both sides will say, well, the quality of the data might not be that great. So whatever the conclusion is from the data, you're going to see some people on the side saying, oh, it's not high quality data, therefore ignore it. But I think that there's a softening of the market. You start hearing news about people getting laid off in high tech. There seems to be a little bit of a slowdown in AI investment. I personally think that multiples of 28 for PE for NVIDIA is too high. And it's very possible that we see the beginnings of the burst. And most likely it will burst officially probably in 2026 for AI development for LLM and the build out. But these companies are different than what happened during the dot-com bubble. The dot-com bubble, a lot of companies IPO'd. They didn't really have revenues. They thought that they would do the Amazon model where you can IPO, don't have profitability, all right? And eventually they surpassed that and became profitable and blah, 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 all right? And then Amazon prevailed. But many of those dot-com companies, they didn't have net revenue. They were losing money. Well, and so they were betting on the future without any real strong revenue stream. That's different today because these companies have serious cash. They have a lot of cash, all right? So they can weather the storm. But as an investor, these multiples of 28 or higher or a little bit lower, you don't want that. All right, S&P 500, last I looked, was, I think the average multiple is 22. It's comfortable when it's around 15 or 18. You start creeping up past 20, that's a problem. That's a problem. The thing is though, a rally can continue on for a while before you have a serious correction. And when we're talking about serious correction, we're talking more than 10%. So I'm concerned about 2026, but we have to see what happens with the economic data, what the Federal Reserve will do. But I would not be, at this moment in time, I'm not that positive with equities in 2026. But we have to see what happens with that transition between Q4 and Q1. between 2026 and that transition to 2020. I'm sorry, the transition from 2025 to 2026. So that's really important to pay attention to. But it's problematic. The 6,630, this is waiting on the Federal Reserve to make their move in December and what's going to be happening in the economic data. Now, anecdotally, I think that the job market is weakening. You have about more than 9% unemployment rate just with new college grads that have skills. I'm not talking about the new college grads that are just humanities. So that's a problem. That's a big problem. Now, I want to pivot over to, well, let's listen to Bloomberg. They're talking about NVIDIA's earnings here. Could see further rotation out of risk. So let's just listen in here. This plays into my point that the AI bubble is starting. The AI bubble burst is starting.
These, other countries in the EU, those would be big buyers if this AI super cycle were to go beyond the hyperscalers, which everyone is anticipating.
I kind of feel like Jensen
Bitcoin right now is trading at 89,000. All right. Now, at the close of the trading session, at the height of Bitcoin, it was around 122. Intraday, I think it was 125, but 122. So if you do like a 38% retracement, right? You're talking about around low 80s before it may bottom out, and it may go down below that. So you have a support level at 83. There's a high chance that Bitcoin's going to go to 83 before it goes to 90 again, right? 90 now is a resistance level, and a support level is going to be 83, and it's possible that it goes below that and then start to march back up. But if people are going to start selling off on equities, there's a high probability that they need cash and they want to reduce a high beta part of their portfolio, which is Bitcoin. And they'll dump it. They'll dump Bitcoin. And I think the institutional investors and retailers, especially in the ETF market, that's what exactly is happening here. And you got to remember, the way those ETFs work, they're supposed to be buying Bitcoin. But if you've got a lot of outflows from the ETF, why would they be buying Bitcoin? So this is the point I'm making. Bitcoin is not a liquid market. There's too many whales that affect the price. All right, let me recycle this.
probably will today, a little bit of an awkward.
And that stack is useful for training LLMs, inferencing, and that is the big risk when it comes to NVIDIA, is a hyperscaler getting off the NVIDIA stack.
All right, should I really listen to this call
All right.
today? Because I'll listen.
So
to
what
it
he's
on-
basically talking about, because I've paid attention to the story a little bit, Google has their own chips, and they have now trained Gemini, their next version of their LLM, on their own chips and not NVIDIA's. Now, NVIDIA is at 28 multiple for PE, for the price to earnings. Can you really justify a PE of 28? No, you can't. That's the problem. And a lot of the S&P 500 is heavily weighted in the Mag 7.
I have no interest in Tesla, but just to see what Elon's going to say. Do I listen to the NVIDIA call today, or can I just stick with my Nick's highlights?
No,
I think,
you gotta
I
listen.
think it definitely has a lot of repercussions in terms of, the build out, the power constraints, because NVIDIA is at the center of seeing it all in terms of how it's playing out, whether it's the fate of neoclouds or just what the hyperscalers are doing. And I bet you people are still lining up to NVIDIA to get an allocation of their Blackwell GPUs, because that's what NVIDIA has been able to deliver, constant improvement in the next generation of their chips.
All right, very good. I think I'll pop it in there, pop the earpiece in, we'll see how it goes. 5 o'clock tonight, Eastern time, is the conference call report numbers. Around 4:20 hits the tape, so pay attention to that, Mandeep. And the entire Bloomberg Intelligence technology team worldwide will be paying attention to this because that's how big that stuff is. Mandeep Singh, thanks so much for joining us. Always appreciate your support. Mandeep Singh, he heads up the research technology side over there at Blue Intelligence. For our listeners in the U.S., a reminder, you can listen to us via satellite radio on Sirius XM channel 121. Access the world's only global audio business network, coast to coast, 24 hours a day. Bloomberg Radio on Sirius XM channel 121 is presented by.
Okay, we're gonna pivot over. We're gonna pivot over to talking about Larry Summers. Larry Summers is on the Epstein list, and Larry Summers has removed himself from the public eye in terms of public engagements, conferences or news media. Yeah, I mean, he's always on the economic news stations. You got to remember here, Larry Summers went after Trump and his tariff policy. Now, I suspect this. Globalists want globalization. That's why they're globalists. The transnational capitalists, the multinationals, they don't want the tariffs. So what do? You roll in Larry Summers demonizing tariffs and bringing back manufacturing to the United States. Now he's compromised. He's on the Epstein list. So the globalists are saying, we'll protect you. All right? But you got to go after Trump. You got to demonize him. I think that's what happened. And then the Trump administration said, you know what? Enough is enough. We're just going to release and just let the chips fall where they may. And a lot of people are going to be involved. And it's not just Larry Summers. I suspect that there are more people high up in the Harvard organization, maybe even Alan Dershowitz, that will be implicated with the further investigation that's going to be taking place at Harvard. So Larry Summers is pulling back from the public eye. And he stepped down from OpenAI board of directors. Harvard is doing an additional investigation on university affiliates that may be tied to Larry Summers and Epstein. All right, so there's probably more to come out on this. Now, a lot of people in the ones that hate Trump, you know, they go, well, Trump's on the list too, and just because you're on the list doesn't mean you're implicated. But the thing is that there was a lot of conversation going back and forth between Larry Summers and Epstein post the charge of Epstein. And this is after Larry Summers was president of Harvard. In addition, Larry Summers is implicated with some sort of an affair with a Ph.D. graduate, I believe from Harvard, and he was mentoring her. And my understanding is that eventually they meet at a conference and then something happened. Now, is this Chinese Ph.D. that's in economics part of some sort of infiltration by the CCP to try to compromise people? Or is she not? I don't know. But that's not out of the realm of possibility, especially when you pay attention to what happened with Lieber and the honey trap. A lot of problems here. And I think that this Chinese individual that Larry Summers had an affair with potentially has links to the CCP. All right? And I think that's part of the reason why they're investigating this. But you also have to remember, Trump was pushing on Harvard. And a lot of people were thinking, oh, it's only about anti-Semitism. No, it's not. The reason why he was pushing Harvard so hard is because it's that there is, through the 1,000 Talent Program, which turned into the 10,000 Talent Program. But back in the day, when I was covering this in 2020, it was the 1,000 Talent Program by the CCP. All right, but now it's a 10,000 Talent Program. And what they do is they try to steal technology, and compromise individuals and bring them into the fold of the CCP. And Lieber was one of them. They catch them in a honey trap, and then all of a sudden that they're beholden. And Larry Summers may have fallen into this category. And so the Trump administration was trying to weed out some of this infiltration by the CCP. That's a big element on why the Trump administration went after Harvard. Now, of course, there's the crazy ultra-liberal stuff where the students come out of the university and they're promoting this ultra-liberal agenda at in corporate America or even in politics. That's true. That's a problem. But part of the reason why they wanted to know the details of the students, especially the ones that were on student visas from China, was to understand that infiltration. But also by asking Harvard to provide the data of what their matriculation stats were, or matriculation stats were. That would show positive that there were some sort of DEI agenda in bringing in new students into the college. But they didn't want to show that data because Harvard knows that they did wrong. All right. But so this is a complex problem. It's not just one thing. It's a multitude of things. The CCP infiltration, the need for money from outside governments and companies that sometimes are our enemies to the United States. But Harvard needs the money. Harvard over relying on $2 billion of grant funds from the United States. The implication of famous individuals in the Harvard community that may have been compromised, either through the Epstein list or through the CCP. So with that, we're going to start playing some of the things that are happening with Larry Summers. But this is escalating. Him dropping out from the board of OpenAI, him staying out of the limelight. You got to remember, Larry Summers thinks very highly of himself. He has a lot of hubris. And for him to stay out of the limelight, that goes right to the heart of his ego. Now, I've met Larry Summers at multiple economic conferences. And the thing is that he really does think that he is superior to people. All right. With that, and another thing about Larry Summers is that he was with the Clinton administration and he helped Rubin and others to strike down the Glass-Steagall regulatory framework. And what that did was that ushered in banks to invest with less guardrails. That led to Lehman. So Larry Summers was a key individual that reduced the regulatory framework for banks to take higher risk. And then you add in another layer of financial engineers thinking that they could hedge the risk, take it off their balance sheet by these mortgage-backed securities, and taking insurance bets with AIG, and not realizing that you're creating a whole systemic risk. That even if it's not on your balance sheet, there are counterparties that do have the risk that will tank the whole economy. And so everybody is in the boat. Brought to you by someone that thinks he's so smart that he actually was a key player that led to Lehman. But he'll never admit to it. But Trump's always bad. Trump's bad bringing back manufacturing. Trump's bad for having tariffs. That's what Larry Summers represents. Larry Summers represents that if you don't make something, you'll be a productive country. How can you be a productive country if you don't make stuff and you don't innovate? If you don't know how to make stuff, you lose that knowledge. That's lost knowledge. That's like going into the dark age. But Larry Summers knows better. Larry Summers knows better. All right, before we go to the CNN clip, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the probiotic. I have it in veggie cap form and also in powdered form. The powdered form, veggie cap form. Taking a probiotic is super important. It helps with your gut biome, allows you to absorb your nutrients properly. It'll help with your metabolism, improve your immune system, improve your sleep. And when you have better sleep, you're going to be able to detoxify your central nervous system and consolidate memory and be well rested. You'll be slowing down the aging process. Good health starts at the gut. It's really important to take a good probiotic. I have very high quality probiotics on my store. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the veggie cap version or the powdered version. I take the powdered version because I take a lot of different powders for my lunch. And another great supplement stack to take for the winter season, magnesium and zinc boosts up that immune system and helps with brain function. You should be taking magnesium and zinc every day to slow down the aging process, but especially for the winter season. And vitamin C and magnesium helps with your skin, boosts up the immune system, and helps with brain function. You can stack these together to get the max benefit. Magnesium also improves the efficacy of vitamin D3. You will be able to get more out of the vitamin D3 that you take when taking the magnesium in these supplements. Drink it with filtered water, take it every day, especially during the winter season. And by the way, you're getting to the end of the year. Get healthy. Make a New Year's resolution saying, hey, you're going to slow down the aging process, boost up that immune system, start doing some weight training and do a little bit of cardio, do some stretching and balancing exercises, eat properly, drink filtered water, stay away from sugary foods and processed foods. Get healthy, because when you're healthy, your medical bills later in life will go down, not up. Please go to my store. Use discount 5, you get $5 off, and don't be a Larry Summers, because Larry Summers is a know-it-all.
Amazon offers hourly employees health care on day one for the whole family.
Tonight, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, a former Harvard professor herself, is calling on the school to cut ties with the former university president and current faculty member, Larry Summers. That's because Senator Warren says that Summers cannot be trusted, that's her quote, after new details emerged regarding
Larry Summers can't be trusted, one, because he did the deregulation that led to Lehman under the Clinton administration through Glass-Steagall, the repeal of it. Secondly, he's a never-Trumper trying to demonize bringing back manufacturing, which is that how could he be an economist and think that if you don't have a robust manufacturing, that you're going to be a strong society? What? All strong societies have strong manufacturing. This idea that you can just rape and pillage the manufacturing base and that the society over a long duration of multiple decades is going to be prosperous is BS. I don't know where he got his degree from. Oh, what? It was Harvard. So he's crazy. Strong manufacturing leads to military prowess and knowledge, institutional knowledge of that discipline that leads to innovation. This guy's, we're just going to lower the costs overseas and bring it and import it. So the paper pushers make more money, but the people that actually know how to do stuff, they don't make money. They lost their job. Oh, guess what? If you pay attention to actually neurological brain function, if you learn through the typical academics, mathematics, history, right? Or, English, whatever, and you're reading, right? But not doing. You're only doing half of the cognitive function that your brain is designed for. Because we have been developed over millennia to think and also to do. Not just to do. If you look at people that just do and they don't learn anything, they haven't fully developed their brain. But if you look at people that just learn but don't do, they haven't fully developed their brain either. It's when you put these two together, which is a major Greek philosophy. If you pay attention to Greek philosophy, they're saying you need to have the combination of mind and body. So to have proper, in the contemporary context, to have proper brain function, you have to have the kinematics. You look at someone that knows piano, but also has learned about history, they're a well-rounded person. If someone's just playing piano and they don't know anything else and they're just an idiot savant for piano, yeah, they're a genius for piano, but they haven't fully developed their brain. If someone just knows history or just mathematics and hasn't learned something like playing the piano, having that kinematics, you're not fully developing the brain. Now, why is that? Well, you have certain areas of the brain, these Broca areas, that are focused on cognition, cognitive activities. But you also have huge areas of the brain that are tied to coordination of your muscles. And your brain needs both. So this ideal, the Greek ideal of mind and body, sports and intellectual pursuits, building things and learning other subject matters, is a more well-rounded person. But what we have today in society, and Larry Summers is part of the problem, is you have a bunch of fat asses that don't move around, that have a lot to say about their particular domain, but they don't have fully developed their brain because they don't do. A well-rounded person does and learns. And so that is a microcosm or a building block of a society. At the societal level, you have to have a society that is thinking and doing, learning and designing and manufacturing. You got to do and learn, not just to do and not just to learn. China is just doing, not learning. If they were learning, they would be coming out with really innovative products. Their creativity is on the lower scale. Now, because we have a free society, we're more creative. But the problem is that we've had people like Larry Summers that's gutted our manufacturing. So at the societal level, we haven't mixed and coupled the idea of body and mind. All right, with that, let's go back to Larry Summers. Oh, one more thing. Elizabeth Warren is complaining about Larry Summers. He must step down. He's compromised. Blah, 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 blah. Well, wait a minute, Pocahontas. You only elevated in academia because you lied. Wait a minute. Elizabeth Warren's a multimillionaire. Multimillionaire. Do you think she made those millions by not having insider information when she's a senator?
Relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. All of this revealed in last week's release of Epstein's private emails. Larry Summers served as Bill Clinton's Treasury Secretary, and in Barack Obama's administration, he was the director of the National Economic Council. These new emails are the comments that Summers made as he also sought out dating advice from Jeffrey Epstein. That includes the morning of March 17th, 2019. You see these emails here where Summers and Epstein were exchanging multiple emails debating Summers and whether or not he should send a note to a romantic interest. Epstein argued to Summers that it would be, quote, bad form. Summers wrote back, quote, why bad form? Supposed to be face to face? To which Epstein replied, you care very much for this person. You might want to demonstrate that. A note does the very opposite. Now, the reason that exchange is notable that we're pointing it out is because of when it happened. It was just 4 months before that exchange that the Miami Herald had published an exhaustive investigation detailing Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of underage girls. They continued to communicate, though, for the next several months. That includes on July 5th, 2019, when Larry Summers sent Jeffrey Epstein an update from his vacation on Cape Cod. The next day, July 6, 2019, when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested for sex trafficking crimes. Now, tonight, Larry Summers told CNN in a statement that he is going to continue to teach at Harvard, but he will be stepping back from his other public commitments, saying in a statement that he takes full responsibility for the misguided decision to continue communicating with Mr. Epstein. My political sources tonight are Democratic strategists.
I think that what's going to happen with him still teaching is that there's going to be a big uproar with the student body that's going to be against Larry Summers. Now, you got to remember that Larry Summers stepped down from being president of Harvard because of his comments about women, saying that that there are many women that don't have the knack in mathematics. And so he was pushing against the beginnings of this DEI agenda over at Harvard. There was such a blowback that he had to step down. All right. So I have a feeling there are going to be a lot of women that are going to try to push for him to not be a professor. So stay tuned. But I would not be surprised that he has to resign or step down. Now, usually what happens is at Harvard, when there's an investigation of this kind of magnitude, they keep their position and then, until there's actually some sort of official charge, and then they drop them. So right now, it's just an investigation. But if there's a charge, boom, he's gone.
Valencia Johnson and Republican strategist David Urban. And obviously, it's worth noting, Valencia, that Senator Warren and Larry Summers have clashed before in the past over policy issues and whatnot. But her saying, this is someone who is very involved in Democratic politics, was reportedly going to be very involved in them doing a version of Project 2025 for Democrats. She's saying that the school needs to cut ties with him entirely. Do you agree with her?
Yes.
I absolutely do agree
Yes.
with her, and not just because I worked for her in her presidential primary, but because, as you explained, the timing of this. It's one thing if Larry Summers was communicating with Jeffrey Epstein before the big investigation
Okay.
From the Miami.
This is the reason why you come to my channel, because you get really important information. All right. So I've been talking to Miss Taiwan about this particular subject about Larry Summers. All right. So she's just texted me. All right. So it's 12:24. She texted me at 12:11. All right. The Chinese woman that he had the affair with, this is what she states. The Chinese woman is a communist top spy with deep ties to the CCP, top background. She holds several business titles in Asia, as well as a tenured professor in a professorship in the UK. Japan, China conflict drove Asian markets down. So she's also talking about what was going on with the financial markets, which is unrelated to Larry. All right. So I asked her what about the proof about the CCP? Her father is the deputy treasurer. You got to remember, no one in China gets to a high position unless you're a CCP party member. They should investigate her. Rumor is, maybe I don't know if she's deviating. All right, now this is tied to Bitcoin. Rumor is true. TSMC is investigating the executive who retired and went to Intel with nano secrets. So it must be some sort of nanotechnology secrets. but Intel refused to comment. So something is also happening with TSMC. But the bottom line here with Larry is that he's compromised. And it looks like he fell for a honey trap here.
But it's another, and he said he didn't know about it because there have been instances of that, right? Someone is charged for an egregious crime and people around him don't know anything about it. But this was very public. It was all over our national news. People in politics were paying attention to it and deep diving because of his ties to a lot of political figures. And so it is problematic that he remained in contact with him. And we don't see any evidence of him even acknowledging how wrong Jeffrey Epstein was. And so I agree with Senator Warren because if you think about his involvement, not only in Democratic politics, he is also a teacher at Harvard. And there are probably young women in his class. And I would be concerned about, whether or not he has the integrity to continue to be in those positions. I'm not going to sit here and say anything's going to happen to his students, but it is concerning that you would be okay with someone who has these accusations and you still continue to be involved in a teaching capacity.
So you think what he's doing tonight doesn't go far enough because he says he is still going to be teaching?
I don't think it goes far enough. I don't think we should continue to reward bad behavior, or even when you're trying to turn a blind eye to maintain a position of power.
Yeah. And David Urban, this all comes as we're seeing the ramifications of these emails far and wide. I mean, obviously, Stacey Plaskett, another Democrat, was also texting with Jeffrey Epstein during the Michael Cohen hearing. Apparently, a spokesperson for her confirmed that she was getting text messages from him that influenced her questioning, it appears. But David, this is also coming as for Republicans, for your party, there is a huge breakup underway between Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene. In part, she's criticized how they've handled the Jeffrey Epstein saga and this entire back and forth over the discharge petition. She was one of those 4 votes that came out initially and voted for this. With the president saying that she's a traitor and Marjorie Taylor Greene, as he called her, what do you make of that? Do you think that's all right, or do you think that's too far?
Yeah, it's true.
Build a website you love with Wix. For your words, create your brand, your opportunity.
Yeah, it's too far of me. So let me just say this. I don't think I've ever said these words before. I agree with Senator Warren, right? Like I agree with Senator Warren and Alethea. I think that Larry Summers has to go. That not only was his judgment very bad there, but this was a young woman who was a mentee. He was texting or emailing back and forth with Epstein about, and moreover, her father was a member of the Chinese Communist Party, so most likely he was getting played as an asset during this whole thing. So it's only the tip of the iceberg with the Larry Summers issue. Yeah, look, Marjorie Taylor Greene, like her, don't like her, love her, hate her. She campaigned for Donald Trump when very few people were. She was out there burning and churning when, after January 6th, and Donald Trump was a lonely soldier. She was a foot soldier in the Trump war, fighting for him every step and every way. So I think it's a little harsh for him to say what he did about her. Look, I don't necessarily agree with her all the time on this vote. I think, bad news doesn't get better with age. If I were the White House, I'd have released it a long, long time ago and moved on quickly to something different. It's a bad PR move. It seems to me. I'm not quite sure
David,
who or what they're trying to protect, but it's never getting better.
Well, that's what I mean. I was talking to people who are allies of Trump's and White House officials who were saying they kind of did this to themselves because they could have just come out and supported this from the beginning instead of. I mean, they brought Lauren Boebert into this Situation Room to try to get her to change her mind last week. So it's not like they really get a lot of credit for this passing. I mean, it passed despite their efforts, not because of them.
Yeah, listen, I consider myself a huge supporter of the president's. I can tell you in 2016, when I signed up to support Donald Trump, you could fit everybody in a room, in a tiny room that was supporting Donald Trump. And so I just think this was mishandled from the get-go. I'm not quite sure why. Just get the information out. People campaigned on it. The president campaigned on it. Others did as well. The president and Republicans feel that they were, that for too long the mighty and powerful have been protected in this country, and this president campaigned on
making sure there was equal and fair justice for everybody, the rich as well as the poor. And this feels a little counter to that. It feels like that someone's being protected that might not be worthy of that protection, as you see in these Larry Summer emails.
Yeah, and Valencia, I mean, just seeing this, Mike Johnson was asked about this, the calling her a traitor. It is something that was unfathomable. I mean, after January 6th, there were very few Republicans who still vocally supported the president publicly. Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of them. And so to see this split has even shocked a lot of people inside their orbit.
Listen, I am all about people redeeming themselves and changing their opinion, but I believe in as a good book strategy, judge a person by their fruit. And so we have to see how Marjorie Taylor Greene continues to move forward. And also if she atones for a lot of the egregious things that not only she said, but supported, like January 6th and some of the things that she didn't hold Donald Trump accountable for. And so we have to see where she continues to be on this path, because she's talking a great game right now, but who knows what's going to happen when something else happens that comes out of the White House.
Yeah, Dana Bash had a really good interview with her on Sunday and brought up some of her past statements and whatnot. And then she did ask for, or said that she regretted some of those things. Alencia, stand by. David.
She went on the View. She went on the View. How much better can she pleading for forgiveness?
Listen, we got to continue to.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the very high quality deodorants that are dual purpose. Use them as a daily deodorant, but it will also help to detoxify your body. You can get it in citrus and also in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. These deodorants are for males or for females. Get a couple bars for your household. It's made from essential oils from the Himalayas. Very high quality ingredients. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 to get $5 off any order. If you spend $100 or more, you do get a free gift until supplies last. Also, get the digestive enzyme complex. This will help to reduce the load on your pancreas. As you get older, your pancreas doesn't perform as well, independent of how healthy you are. Digestive enzyme complex will break up those carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids and allow you to absorb your nutrients easier, reduce the stress on your digestive system. And with that less stress, your digestive system will have less inflammation. Super important. And by doing this is part of the anti-aging protocol. By improving your digestive system, by taking the good probiotics and taking the digestive enzyme complex, you're helping your overall health. And digestive enzyme complex has bromelain in it. That will help to break up clots because it's fibrinolytic. Also, there are proteolytic enzymes in here that will help to break up glycoproteins. Super important, especially during the winter season. And that's the reason why I said, take digestive enzyme complex during the crisis of 2020, if you've been paying attention. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the digestive enzyme complex. And lastly, olive leaf extract, dual purpose, helps boost up your immune system and helps your cardiovascular system, brings down inflammation and helps to improve your lipid profile. Take it every day, drink it with filtered water. So a great stack. Help with your pancreatic health and digestion by taking the digestive enzyme complex. Get the olive leaf extract to help with your cardiovascular health and boost up your immune system. And get the deodorants so you smell good and it detoxifies your body. It's made from essential oils from the Himalayas. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5, all caps, discount 5. And if you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last.
Former president of Harvard and Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton is stepping back from his public commitments after emails released by the House revealed he maintained a warm correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein as recently as 2019, more than a decade after Epstein pleaded guilty to charges related to soliciting a minor for prostitution. In some exchanges, Summer sought Epstein's advice on a romantic relationship he was pursuing with a woman he described as a mentee. And other messages, Summers weighed in on women's intelligence, the same subject that led to his resignation as Harvard president, and criticized the punishment of men who hit on women in the workplace. Summers is just one of the many individuals from elite circles revealed to be one of Epstein's confidants. Joining us now, now senior legal reporter Lisa Rubin, former U.S. attorney, and now legal analyst Joyce Vance, senior investigative reporter at Bloomberg Jason Leopold, and USA Today domestic security correspondent Josh Myers. So, Josh, you really looked into the emails and got a sense of who was saying what the relationships were like. What did you come away? What did you come away with?
Thanks for having me, Katie. What I came away with kind of an icky feeling, to be honest. When you see all these people sort of asking Jeffrey Epstein for advice, romantic advice, financial advice, political advice, and this is years and years after his problems in Florida, where he was arrested, charged, and convicted in a sex trafficking case. And you have Larry Summers, who was the former Treasury Secretary and the former president of Harvard, asking him for dating advice, talking about a woman who is his mentee, as you mentioned, and what to do about them. Another guy who was a department store scion of a department store was actually asking him for advice. And both of these men, by the way, were asking for advice about women they were dating that were not their wives at the time. So I'm not sure why they were going to Epstein for that. But, to me, I think one of the more significant things that we found in the emails was some of the things that Epstein said, including about Donald Trump. He said, and two of these real exchanges that jumped out at me were in 2018. There was one when they were talking about Trump's hush money case in New York, where he was on trial for basically trying to silence two women who wanted to come forward before the 2016 election with allegations of having an affair with him. And he said, I know how dirty Donald is. And he said, nobody really understands how important it is to have your fixer flip on you. And he was talking about Michael Cohen, who had been Trump's longtime fixer, who had just agreed to plead guilty to that. But then in December of that year, after the Miami Herald had an explosive series of reports about Trump and Alex Acosta about Epstein and Alex Acosta and how he got a very lenient deal back in 2008, Epstein said very cryptically, it's weird that everybody's talking about Trump because I am the one who can take him down. And we didn't see anything in there that was a response to that. We don't know what led to that and what followed that, but it is a very interesting thing for Jeffrey Epstein to say about the president of the United States.
It's interesting on Trump. There's still so many questions about what exactly Epstein had on him, the motivations were, what their relationship was, why their relationship fell apart. That's still very much still up in the air. What I'm struck by is just the preponderance of evidence, the massive amount of information we have that seems to show that everybody in Epstein's orbit knew how much he liked women and knew how much he liked young women. In the birthday book, there are uncomfortable depictions or cartoons, drawings of young girls getting massages from Jeffrey Epstein, or girls that were little girls growing up to get massages from Jeffrey Epstein. That's weird. And in the emails, you see even women talking about or alluding to it, giving him advice. You should read Lolita, or here's this other book. Also is a little bit like Lolita. You might enjoy it. It's just so strange and so unsettling.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, and I think that's one thing that we really took away from these was that, and I think some of it is money. You have the emails from Larry Summers' wife, who was a professor at Harvard, who seemed to be familiar with all of this, but she was also asking for $500,000 for her department at Harvard so she could continue to try to make TV shows about poetry. So, I don't know what the motivations are there, but it does seem like there was this tremendous familiarity with it. A lot of these people were going to Epstein's Island, where a lot of this occurred. And one of the emails that Epstein sent himself, he goes into like a long sort of soliloquy about all the things that were happening at the island and in his house in Manhattan and in Florida, and all the people that were around him that knew about it. So, it all really makes me wonder what is in the files that the Justice Department is withholding, and why Trump is fighting so hard to keep them away. It raises a lot of questions.
Let's talk about the Justice Department and the files. Jason, I cited your reporting yesterday, I cited it again today. This is about redactions. What did you find?
Thanks, Katie. So this was during reporting I had been pursuing earlier this year. And basically when the Justice Department, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel said that they would start reviewing these files, there was a team of about 1,000 FBI agents and personnel, including, importantly, FBI personnel from the Freedom of Information Act office, the Information and Dissemination section at FBI. And as they all, brought everyone together to start reviewing what made up the Epstein files, and we know now from the Justice Department that they amassed about 300 gigabytes of documents and videos and audio recordings. What I found out from through my reporting with speaking of sources was that Trump's name and the names of other prominent public figures were redacted. And they redacted it at the time. This was prior to the announcement in July that these records would not be released. The Epstein files would not be released after the Justice Department and FBI released a joint statement. And the reason was they redacted for privacy reasons because these, this information or the names of people were found in files that were considered law enforcement records. And they were, no one was charged. So it was, in a sense, protecting individuals from embarrassment. There's a long history about that as it relates to just the Freedom of Information Act when you get documents. But here in this case, obviously, it's, now the President of the United States, the argument was, or the argument is, that at the time that the FBI collected these records, Donald Trump was a private citizen. So that is, what I found during the course of my reporting. I think what will be interesting is if, in fact, these documents, these Epstein files are released, will they continue to be, those redactions, will they continue to be in place? I mean, one thing to note is that we already know that there was an FBI team of agents from New York and Washington and other personnel who have already reviewed these records. I mean, they spent months reviewing these records, sleeping on desks, pulling all-nighters.
Do you think that with 2 attempted assassinations, all the lawfare, the 2 impeachments that took place with Trump, the whole deep state going after him, don't you think that they would have released this already if there was anything there? So this is just mainstream media trying to muddy the waters, trying to implicate Trump. Now, maybe Trump's in it, maybe he's not. I don't really care. I really don't care. What I care about is bringing back manufacturing to the United States because we have war prowess against the CCP, and it'll help to improve our economic clustering. That's more important. I really don't care about the Epstein files. And everyone's so focused on that. Just like so many people are focused on Charlie Kirk or Nick Fuentes. They're irrelevant. The Federal Reserve lowering interest rates is going to be more important for your life and what's happening with the economy, with the S&P 500 trading at almost 6,600 right now. That's more important than Charlie Kirk, Epstein, Larry Summers, Nick Fuentes, all of them put together. But you love the bread and circus. The bread and circus, super important. And this is why MAGA is starting to fracture. Because you have a lot of people focused on stupid stuff.
In 2 large warehouses in Virginia. So they've already worked through it. So if, in fact, they're ready for release, there should be no delay. So it would obviously that remains to be seen.
That is a really good point. Joyce, weigh in on this. Well, I think what we all know is coming at this point is that this new investigation that Donald Trump ordered Pam Bondi to open will be used as a roadblock to turning over information to Congress. You know, typically, if Congress asks for information from the Justice Department about an ongoing criminal case, the Justice Department uses a provision of the statute that permits it to defer that turnover until the criminal case has been concluded. And that's really the reason that these files could not have been released before October, when the Supreme Court put the end to it by saying that they wouldn't hear Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal. That was the formal end of prosecutions in this field. Of course, Pam Bondi had said in July that there was no new evidence that merited prosecution of any third parties who hadn't been charged yet. So we knew, or at least we thought we knew, that no additional charges would be coming. So by ordering his attorney general to open this new case, a thinly veiled political move, because he only ordered her to open as to Democrats, and the president has repeatedly said that this is a Democrat problem, despite the appearance of names of others from his own party, including himself, in those files. This is what's coming. The next effort will be to stonewall by refusing to turn anything over to Congress while that investigation is pending.
All right. Now let's go to another video. This is Boston 10.
Hours away from the House to vote on the Epstein file.
And this is a big deal, Priscilla, right? Because this could unveil who in politics, who in business and entertainment had connections to Epstein, and when they had those connections to him as well. Now, that vote is expected to happen tomorrow after a dramatic split among Republicans and a major reversal from President Trump. Tonight, we're going to get you caught up on where things stand right now and also what happens next. Now, the Epstein Files Transparency Act that hits the floor tomorrow. Right. To pass, it simply needs
this is a little bit older video, but this is also talking about ex-Harvard president Larry Summers, and that's the reason why I'm playing it.
Kentucky Republican Thomas Massie, who forced the vote by rounding up signatures from both parties, says he expects far more than that. Now, momentum increased after a major shift from President Trump, who spent months saying the focus on the Epstein files were a hoax and that they were targeting Republicans. But now President Trump is publicly urging his party to release the files.
You know, we've already given 50,000 pages. You do know that. No matter what we give, it's never enough.
Now, when he was pressed on whether he'd sign the bill if it reaches his desk, President Trump said he would, while insisting the controversy unfairly targets Republicans.
We'll give them everything. Sure, I would. Let the Senate look at it. Let anybody look at it. But don't talk about it too much, because honestly, I don't want to take it away from us. It's really a Democrat problem, and it's a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax.
Now, the push to release these files, it's also intensified a very public rift inside the GOP, especially after Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene broke with the president. But even if the House clears the bill with a wide bipartisan majority tomorrow, the next hurdle is in the U.S. Senate. That is where things get even more complicated. At least 24 Senate Democrats have already signed on to a companion bill demanding the release of the files. That gives Democrats the foundation of a simple majority. But under Senate rules, this is big here, if any senator objects, the bill can be forced into regular order, which would require 60 votes to move. For that, Democrats would need at least 13 Republicans to cross over. And we should note that so far, no senior Republican leaders have committed to supporting it. GOP Whip John Barrasso said only that Republicans would, quote, take a look.
Offering this. They already passed the bill.
Says that he will sign the bill if it reaches his desk.
And with some of the emails already released, new tonight, former Harvard president Larry Summers will be stepping back from public commitments after the release of new Jeffrey Epstein emails. Summers says that he is, quote, deeply ashamed about his friendship with the convicted sex offender. The emails released last week showed years of personal correspondence between the two men. Summers says he will continue to fulfill his teaching obligations. While Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren expressed concerns about Summers' suitability to work with students and has urged Harvard to cut ties with him.
PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money. Campbell here, serial entrepreneur. We entrepreneurs.
All right. This is from Midday India. Is Trump a cocaine user? Larry Summers, Epstein's shocking email. Let's see what they have to say. I hate these videos. It's all. All right. I don't know. I don't like. I don't like just music. Music clips. All right. Who knows? Let's listen to Ben Shapiro blast Bannon over emails with Epstein. All right, let's listen to that. This is The Hill.
Much of the media attention on the Epstein files has been on the instances where President Trump is mentioned. But the files also seem to confirm that Epstein had a working relationship with Trump's former advisor, Steve Bannon.
A report from The Guardian says that the two gave advice to each other in 2018, with Bannon helping Epstein protect his reputation and Epstein offering guidance on how to spread Bannon's political messaging in the wake of his resignation from his role in the White House. The article reads, quote, in all of Epstein's messages, the identity of his correspondent is redacted, but Bannon's identity in the thread cited in this reporting is clear from contextual clues, including his documented activities at the time, details of his business and media pursuits, and other disclosures.
One message in particular caught the attention of social media. It comes from June of 2019, just before Epstein was arrested. He allegedly texted Bannon, writing, quote, now you can understand why Trump wakes up in the middle of the night sweating when he hears you and I are friends. Here was Ben Shapiro reacting to the messages on his show yesterday.
We are talking about 10 years after it was obvious to everyone that Jeffrey Epstein was, in fact, a pedophile.
I am not a fan of Ben Shapiro. All right? I find him condescending, and in a way, he's very similar to Jordan Peterson. There is an element of materialism with him that I don't like. All right? Supposedly that they're the intellectuals of our time period. Really? Really? Again, they have good mind and body, good mind. You have to mix the mind and body. You got to do and you got to learn. You got to use your cognitive skills. All talk, no action. Jordan Peterson, all talk, no action. What I mean by no action, not mixing skills where there's kinematics. Right? Do you see Ben Shapiro, running a triathlon? No. All right. And then look at what I mean by his materialism. All right? He puts his book up against his microphone so you can see it. I think it says Ben Shapiro, Lions and Scavengers, the true story of America. All right? Trying to sell a book, materialism. Well, I'm trying to sell supplements, but if you follow my protocol, you're actually going to slow down the aging process. And this is something that I do. But I don't have copies of my ebooks, behind me saying, go buy my ebooks. If you want to, great. If you don't, that's okay too. But there's a materialism with Ben Shapiro. That's a problem. It's all about marketing. It's all about what's the hottest trend on X, and we're going to talk about it so we get eyeballs, so we have higher ad revenue. That's what most podcasts are these days. Instead of how are you going to navigate through the sell-off that's taking place on the equity market? How are you going to navigate your finances and maybe even your retirement funds when the AI bubble happens? How are you going to navigate the job market if AI takes the jobs away? Hey, I'm giving you some advice. This guy is just nothing but materialism. And with that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Goodnight formula, because you need to be properly rested to turn on your BS detector. Goodnight formula is going to allow you to get into those 3 to 5 cycles of REM sleep, detoxify your central nervous system, and you'll be well rested. And by detoxifying your central nervous system and consolidating memory, guess what? You're going to have better brain function. You're going to slow down the aging process. Chronic sleep deprivation can lead to early onset of dementia. You need good sleep. If you pay attention to people that are in that zone of longevity, one key factor that they all have, they sleep regularly. Please go to my store, get the Goodnight formula. It has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, and passion flower. Drink it with filtered water. Take it every night. Slow down the aging process and consolidate that memory. And don't be a Ben Shapiro. Back to the news.
That 10 years after that, he was acting not just as a sort of friend, but as a confidant and as a PR advisor, which says something about somebody. If you're acting as a confidant and PR advisor to a convicted sex offender like Jeffrey Epstein, who is well known to be into underage girls.
See? It looks like he's trying to wedge MAGA. Wait a minute, there seems to be a fracturing. There's some fracturing of the MAGA movement with Nick and maybe Tucker on one side and another, Candace Owens on a different side, but she seems to change camps depending on the day of the month. You got on the other side Ben Shapiro, and then all of a sudden you have this new fracture between Ben Shapiro and Stephen Bannon. Stephen Bannon reminds me of the body and mind that I was describing. He has intellectualized the movement of national progressives. And not only that, he served his country. All right? And serving your country is through, you have to, he served in the Navy, there's a physicality to it. Body and mind. I don't see body and mind with Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is mind, not body. So he's not fully developed. His mind isn't fully developed. Because to fully develop the mind, you have to have mind and body. But here again, we have a further fracturing of the MAGA movement because Ben Shapiro pushing an agenda that may not necessarily be America first.
If that is, I don't know what that says about you or why you should have any level of authority in any future Republican Party.
Meanwhile, Trump continues to face questions on his relationship with Epstein, with many latching onto an email from Epstein where he wrote that Trump knew about the girls. Earlier this week, when asked about that email, he appeared to cut off a female reporter and call her Piggy. Take a look.
What if you could taste the movies?
We turned that idea into an $11.3 million business with Wix. One movie night, we were. You gotta find out how to
The identity of the reporter Trump was talking to is unknown, but CBS's Jennifer Jacobs said she is a Bloomberg reporter. Some of Trump supporters argue that he was actually calling reporters by her name, Peggy. but Democrats weren't buying that argument and quickly condemned Trump for the comments. Washington Senator Patty Murphy, writing on X, quote, "What a disgusting way to talk to a journalist asking a simple and fair question. This is no way for any decent human being, much less the president, to speak. Makes you wonder why he's being so defensive."
All comes as the House and Senate both passed a bill on Tuesday requiring the Justice Department to release its files on Epstein. The bill now awaits President Trump's signature. The Bannon stuff is very interesting and a little bit surprising to me because Bannon has been pretty in favor of releasing the files, and that on his show, War Room, he has very much platformed the get to the bottom of Epstein kind of stuff. If I was him, I would not want those emails to come out because they, to Ben Shapiro's point, again, these are not emails from before it's widely known that he was a sexual predator. This is 10 years after that. He went to prison for sexual abuse of underage girls, and you're not just like a friendly, but a advising kind of role. That is very, very, very bad judgment. And I wonder if it's going to reflect any changing consensus on Steve Bannon, because Bannon is a divisive but somewhat popular figure in MAGA circles. He has maintained, I don't know how much influence he has over Trump specifically. He always
Bannon, I don't know what's going on with Bannon and the Epstein files and blah, blah, blah. But if you listen to Bannon, Bannon is a smart guy. Now, he's bombastic. He's, war type. He's like a Roman soldier or a Roman general, right? He's like, he's action. He's about action. Ben Shapiro, he's a wussy. He's a wussy. Because he didn't develop both sides of his brain. But the thing is that you're seeing this mosaic of the fracturing of MAGA now. All right? Now, why? Why? Like I said, on September 11th of 2026, there's going to be a curse that is coming down on this earth because people could not get along. The curse started years ago, over 10 years ago, with the Jewish Orthodox community. And then eventually diffused into secular Judaism. And now the curse is coming to all people of the world because people couldn't get along. Well, welcome to the show. Better get some popcorn because after September 11th of 2026, all hell is going to break loose.
Act as if he has a lot of influence on Trump, whereas I think Trump seems to keep him at arm's length. But he hosts a very popular show, is well liked by the MAGA base, is good at, I think, identifying and promoting talent on the right in terms of media personalities. I don't know. This is pretty bad.
Yeah, I think Ben Shapiro said it spot on. I mean, this is disgusting, disturbing. When you think about the relationship, it's not even just like, okay, this person did something egregious, I'm not going to completely cut them off. It's like, oh, I'm going to lean into how to help you maintain your better image and come on the other side of this. Like,
Larry Summers is the same way.
He should leave Harvard. I say that. I'm equal opportunity if somebody does something that I think is disgusting and carries on a relationship with a pedophile. Certainly, you're not going to get any pushback from me. I think people are asking questions because, like you said, Bannon was, even though maybe less now in the second term but in the first term, extremely tight-knit with President Trump. And so this is the company he was keeping, prior to that. It's kind of like you're just wondering what conversations is he having? None at all about his relationship with President Trump and with Epstein, even though Epstein is noting, here's why the president's losing sleep at night because of our relationship, meaning that he might think that President
U.S. plans to buy and own as many as 10 nuclear reactors. Wait a minute. Are we starting to become a centralized economy? What? Why?
aware that his, somebody, a member of his administration is having a close relationship with a pedophile, a convicted pedophile, sex trafficker. This is just all disgusting stuff. So I think, and Bannon, for somebody who thinks that he has a pulse on what's coming next in the future of the Republican Party, that's something that
this is interesting about Bannon, because Bannon has been very negative towards Israel. And he's, America first. He doesn't want the forever wars in the Middle East. He feels that the lobbying group by Israel is pernicious. And then all of a sudden this comes out. So how do we know that all this news about Epstein is nothing but a smear campaign by the Israelis? How do we know this? We don't know. But it's coincidental. I thought Stephen Bannon says there's no coincidences.
Call out and point to people that don't have a good, moral fiber, and then say that they should be leading. I don't think you can separate. So you have to have some type of moral compass, and then you also can be a leader. You can't do stuff like that and then try to say, "Oh, here's my agenda for the future." You're not somebody that I would listen to. And I think it's right of Ben Shapiro to say, "Well, let's not let him speak for the party." You said that about Fuentes. Maybe the Republican Party could be more intentional about who they're letting speak on their behalf. Bannon feels that he is largely speaking on behalf of Republicans. So I think people should raise an eyebrow as he continues to speak, especially as these files get released. We might find out a whole lot more. That was damning with only 30,000 pages. Apparently there's a ton
And
more,
we may
so
find out that,
really bad.
and maybe we'll find out that this is just a straw man. Maybe.
For whomever it's meant to get bad for.
I just keep reading these emails and being baffled by the level of friendliness, cordiality, advising. These are, people. Bannon, a figure of the right. Larry Summers, a figure of Democratic politics, moderate, but advisor to Democrats, and so many others who spoke to this man with just such compassionate tones, grace, and closeness, and I'm not sure I've written an email that is that friendly to anyone in my life. You know what I mean? It's just not the means of communications people of our age and younger use at all, but it's just such a, I read them and I am struck by how weird they sound to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're talking about the way that they dialogue with each other. It's kind of like, even when you have a choice to make in life, where somebody who was a former friend does something that's completely out of bounds for what you're comfortable with morally, that's something that you have to make. Even if text messages, even if you lessen the communication, you don't double down and start to over communicate and figure out how to help them through this time.
It's sentimental. It's not here. They're mawkish. Maybe it's that they don't have any emojis or exclamation points in them is why they look so weird to me. I don't know.
Well, Gen Z is making fun of us for the emojis and the LOL.
LOL. Yeah, I'm right. You and I are the same age, so you're probably like me. LOL at the end of every message. I can't help it.
Well, you have to stop.
Gen Z.
Gen Z saying we sound like 100-year-olds.
You'll pry my LOLs from my cold, dead hands, kids, because that's how I communicate.
Well, we have a lot more to talk about on Rising. You guys stay with us.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Zeolite. This will help to detoxify your body from heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals. Allows you to urinate them out within 6 to 8 hours. Take 3 small drops underneath your tongue and drink filtered water. Do that every day. And detoxifying your body is going to help your immune system and your endocrine system. C60, you can get it in avocado oil, MCT coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil. Take a teaspoon a day every day. Take it on an empty stomach for best absorption. If you work out, take it before you work out and you'll recover quicker. C60 will absorb free radicals 1,000 times more potent than a molecule of vitamin C. 1 molecule of C60 is 1,000 times stronger than a molecule of vitamin C. Soak up those free radicals, reduce the stress in the cell and in your tissues. You'll have more energy, your mitochondria will be healthier, you'll have more ATP, the cells and the tissues will perform better, your endocrine, your immune system will perform better. Soaking up free radicals at the vascular level will reduce the concentration of oxidized LDL, so you are reducing plaque formation. Super important. And C60 helps your your brain, helps the neurons, boosts up that ATP levels, improves the health of the mitochondria. So you're producing those neurotransmitters and over time improving the neuroplasticity. So you're thinking faster. You have better memory. And when you have better cardiovascular health, you have better blood flow to your brain. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take the C60, take a teaspoon a day every day. Super important. Slow down that aging process and boost up that immune system. That's really important, especially during the fall season. I've been taking C60 since 2016. Vitamin B complex. This is really important to protect your neurons, speed up that metabolism, help your mitochondrial health. Take it every day. And turmeric. Turmeric brings down inflammation and soaks up free radicals. And when you do that, you're helping your vascular system, you're helping your immune system, you're even helping your brain function. Because if you're reducing the inflammation and soaking up free radicals at the brain level, then your neurons are healthier. If you have chronic inflammation around the neurons, your neurons will die. Super important. Take the turmeric, boost up the immune system, and especially take the turmeric during the winter season. Please go to my store and get the turmeric. Slow down the aging process. All right, let's play David Icke. Epstein, the clock is ticking. I don't play David Icke, but today we will.
Into the whole Trump thing, what's been coming out and where is this going to lead to?
Yeah, in terms of Epstein, what we've got is some emails that have been released by Democrats, which have Epstein talking about Trump knowing about the girls. And it also indicates that Trump was at Epstein's house in Florida for many hours with a victim, Virginia Dupre. What she has said over the years is that she never had any problem with Trump in terms of abuse, etc. So immediately, those of the left are saying this is proof that Trump's basically a paedophile and all that stuff. And on the right, oh no, he did nothing wrong. Well, from the evidence that's come out, you on the left can't say he's a paedophile. What you can do massively is connect him to Epstein as a best buddy of Epstein for a long time, and the pictures support it. You can also be pretty bloody sure, to say the least, that he knew what was going on and did nothing. But on the right, in the same way, you can't say he wasn't involved at all and he never was involved in any of this stuff because we don't know, and you don't know, and you don't know. So I don't think these are bombshell emails yet. We'll see what more comes out, but you would have thought the Democrats would put the most damning ones out first. But anyway, we'll see. What he's done, Trump, is deny everything. He's called it a hoax, which it blatantly isn't.
Democrat conspiracy.
Yeah, and it's gone from I'll reveal the Epstein files and his son Donald Trump Jr. Oh, we must release the Epstein files all before his father came to power, and then suddenly anything but, and it's a hoax and it's all made up by the Democrats. And I can see more and more revelations coming. And, you know, just to finish the point, you know, when you are being pressured by your own base, your own MAGA base, to release the files, and you've issued a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for publishing the story about a Trump message to Epstein in Epstein's 50th birthday file put together by Ghislaine Maxwell. Well, suddenly, you know, Ghislaine Maxwell becomes a serious point of reference because she knows where the bodies are buried, and thus is devastating or supportive of you, depending which way she decides to go. And then to dispatch your own, for a long time, personal lawyer, Todd Blanche, to Maxwell's prison in Florida. And within days, she's gone to a minimum security prison, which is denied basically by law to someone who's been charged with what she's charged with. And so, hello, I mean, you can't do that so blatantly and then claim there's nothing to hide, because clearly there is, or you wouldn't be going to these amazing lengths. So I do see the drip continuing, and his credibility of denial diminishing in step with that.
If you want to read more and watch more of my content, then go to the description under the video where you can buy my books. The latest one is The Roadmap, where you can get tickets for public events and how you can subscribe.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the heirloom barley. This will help to detoxify your body, reduce inflammation, and soak up free radicals. This is very powerful. It's a micronutrient, it's a powder, it's a protein powder, but you can't get this at a regular store, all right? This is very special stuff. It's heirloomed, all right? So it has the micronutrients that you need. Take it every day, mix it with soft foods like I do, like hummus or yogurt or even applesauce. Or even cottage cheese. Or you can mix it with just water. You can mix it with milk or even a smoothie, but take it every day and it'll help to detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, and soak up free radicals. And when you do that regularly, you're actually slowing down the problem. You're slowing down the aging process. And especially take this during the winter season. Because you know what? You get exposed to things that may harm you. Well, if you boost up your immune system, you'll be better off. Now, lignans, also a powder that I take, they'll bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals, help the immune system and the endocrine system. You should be taking this every day as part of my anti-aging protocol. This stacks really well with turmeric and ashwagandha. When you do that on a regular basis, you're slowing down the aging process and boosting up that immune system. And you can stack lignans with the heirloom barley. So please go to my store, use discount 5, all caps, discount 5. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. All right, let's listen to G0 by Ian. Doctor.
Hi, everybody. Ian Berger here, and a question from a viewer. Could Trump have handled the Epstein issue any worse? Well, there's always worse. You're clearly not imaginative enough. No, the easy way he could have done it worse is when suddenly it was clear that he was hemorrhaging Republican votes in the House to stick with his opposition to releasing the files. And of course, what he did on Sunday night was he flipped yet again, accepting the inevitable. As they say, when they're running you out of town, get in front of the crowd, make it seem like you're leading the parade. That is exactly what Trump has just done. So the latest move was the smart one. And now all of the Republicans can vote in favor of releasing the files to the extent that they are legally capable. And of course, that is a key caveat, because now that Trump has directed the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to open investigations into the files that he has called a hoax, into the Democratic senior leadership that has been involved and caught up in the files, like the massive funder Reid Hoffman, like the former Secretary of Treasury Larry Summers, like Bill Clinton himself, all of whom appear in the files many, many times, that certainly the Department of Justice is going to say they'll delay. And they'll take time to do the redactions, but they'll also say in an active investigation a lot of things that they will not be able to actually disclose. So it's going to feel a lot like the Trump tax releases, where he promised he's going to release them. And then, of course, he didn't. He found lots of excuses why he couldn't. He wished he could, but if there wasn't, it's just an audit going on. And with ongoing audits, of course, you can't actually then release the taxes. And this is the same thing. It's not me. It's all of these other things to ensure that we don't find out what's in the files. I think, it's going to be embarrassing, because if it wasn't embarrassing for Trump, he wouldn't have been so suddenly negative after having pushed and pushed and pushed on Epstein all the way through his campaign, with so much of the core MAGA supporters taking this on as a cause celeb in favor of Trump and against the Democrats that they believed were hiding and trying to protect a lot of their own who had been caught up with Epstein. I suspect that there is not anything that significantly implicates Trump from a legal perspective, because if there had, I think that even though this wasn't a priority for Biden, and even though there was, I'm sure, some willingness to protect their own political tribe, if there had been clear illegal behavior, if they had found that Trump was indeed involved directly in pedophilia, I think that there would have been an investigation of Trump during the Biden administration. So I don't think it's that. I think it is embarrassing. I think it's going to show that Trump lied about a whole bunch of stuff. And I think that there are a lot of people that are now involved in the redactions, dozens and dozens of agents. There are lots of people that know about things in the files that Trump would not want to have out. They would have to leak directly to the media, because we're well beyond a whistleblower possibility, and that's dangerous. It's particularly dangerous because the Trump administration would go after you if they found out who you were. And the last times that has happened, it's been with no impact on Trump himself. So I am not of the view that what we are seeing right now is the beginning of the end of Trump's control over MAGA, that suddenly he is in decline. But he has had a few, let's say 3 really bad weeks. The elections in New Jersey and New York and Virginia, as well as the referendum in California, all went against Trump. And he wasn't on the actual ballots, but he certainly had preferences, and his side lost. His poll numbers are worse than they have been. That's particularly true on the economy. Suddenly, Trump is talking all about affordability when that has been nowhere in his agenda for the first months, and it's forced him to back away from some of his own tariffs on foodstuffs for many Latin American countries, from Guatemala to Brazil. And these are tariffs that initially he said there would be no cost, nothing would be passed on to the American consumer. And obviously now that is starting to happen, especially as we start to see stockpiling of some goods that are running out. And we're going to start to see more of those prices passed on to consumers. Any CEO of any retail and consumer company in the U.S. will tell you this, even though they don't want to be attached to it publicly, because they don't want to be attacked by Trump. And so, and then you have this necessary climb down where he attacked not just Thomas Massie, who's not been a big Trump supporter, he's been much more libertarian, Rand Paul-like in the House, but also Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has been one of the most vocal and loyal Trump supporters all the way through. And now suddenly Trump has taken away his endorsement and even called her a traitor, which really diminishes, what being a traitor means. I mean, if, you can be a traitor if you're Obama and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Mark Milley and John Bolton and God knows who else, then, kind of applies to a large swath of those that have been encountered with Trump in the political space. But be that as it may, this is not just a House vote. This is someone that had been willing to sort of ride or die with the president, but felt very strongly about a message that he had wanted her to put out publicly. She had, and then he flipped. And now he's flipped back, and we'll see if that means he can come back to good graces with MTG the way he sort of has with Elon Musk. But Elon has something that Trump really wants and needs, which is a lot of cash for ongoing campaigns. MTG maybe not so much. So we'll see with that, and we'll see how much Trump is able to get through all of this over the coming weeks. But I would not be holding your breath on how quickly the public is going to see anything in these files that truly implicates the president. That's it for me, and I'll talk to y'all. That was it.
Finance the old way.
Right. All right, we're going to go to Bloomberg here, but before I do, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. This is dual purpose. It'll help with your skin, your hair, your nails, help with your musculature, your joint health, and your bone density. Take it every day. It's very high quality collagen, but it's really important to take this every day. Please go to my store, get the collagen. And the complete multivitamin. This multivitamin is easy to digest, and you'll be able to have the cofactors for enzymatic activity. These multivitamins that are in here are really important to help with the cells to perform their function, because these are the cofactors for those enzymes. When you have the proper conformation of those enzymes, your cells and your tissues and your organ systems will perform the way they're supposed to. And when that happens, you have healthier tissues, and it's slowing down the aging process. This is a foundational part of the protocol. Get the complete multivitamin. This stacks really well with the probiotics, but you can also stack it with other supplements that I have, like the collagen. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and another trick to improve your skin is to take the collagen, drink about 32 to 64 ounces of filtered water throughout the day, and take vitamin C with the magnesium from my store, and they will cross-link and improve your dermal layer. So please go to my store, get the collagen, get the vitamin C, drink the filtered water, take the multivitamin, use discount 5, you get $5 off any order, and if you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift. Be prepared for the winter season, please. All right, we're going to go to Bloomberg.
Going to make that all that much harder to do, but they could try.
Well, Jeannie, you hit on one thing that I did want to kind of ask about, which is the survivors, as they call themselves, haven't gotten a whole lot of play amidst the talk about will he or won't he sign, what is he going to do with the DOJ, that sort of thing. But they were the center of attention for the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene and others who have been pushing for this. And they were actually, in fact, the center of attention, arguably, for Representative Higgins, who said that he voted against it because he was worried about the disclosures hurting the survivors. So where do you see that going from here? We're obviously focused on the procedure of all this, but are we going to be hearing more from the survivors, you think, in the days to come?
I do think so. They have waited so long to get any relief. They suffered in silence for so many years, and they have been pushing for this. Their attorneys worked with Congressman Massey, worked with Ro Khanna to get this bill put together. And I think, when we talked about it, it was, it's a discharge petition. Those never go anywhere. The fact that they pushed this, and I think I agree with Massey and Khanna, it's really on the work of these victims that they were able to push this over the line in the sort of triumphant, victorious way I don't think any of us imagined. And so I do hope that we hear more about them. this is what they've been asking for, that what happened to them not be forgotten, and that the people who either were a part of it or who turned the other way and apparently are prominent members of our society even today have their reckoning. And I think that we will hear, I hope we hear more from them about that.
Well, there's an interesting ad that's on the air that involves the victims themselves. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's kind of interesting that it's coming from Reid Hoffman, who has been linked to Epstein in a series of reports, and even the president of the United States has called on him. Reid Hoffman posting this ad on Twitter, writing, "The Epstein files must be released in full. Tonight, I supported World Without Exploitation," behind the ad, "to run this ad on Monday Night Football." So you might have actually seen this already. Let's give this a taste for our viewers and listeners.
I was 14 years old. I was 16 years old.
I was 16.
17, 14 years old.
This is me.
This was me. This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein. There are about 1,000 of us.
It's time to bring the secrets out of the shadows.
Now, for the benefit of our radio listeners, it was exactly what Jeannie was just describing. Close-up shots of the victims' current faces. Now they're standing directly in front of the cameras with a black background and holding images of themselves when they were victimized. We see the contrast of their young faces with the way they look now. The ad goes on to read, 5 administrations, and we're still in the dark.
You know what's interesting? You know what's interesting that they never talk about? All right. Yes, they were abused, you know, in a sense, right? You know, because they were underage, but they were paid. They never mention that. They never mention that these people were paid while they were working for Epstein. They weren't like slaves. They were paid. Now, well, wait a minute here. Is this activity by Epstein atrocious and illegal in the United States? Yes. That's probably why they had the island, right? Is it morally wrong? Yes. But you have to, when you are Bloomberg or MSNBC or CNN or whoever, the question needs to be asked. Yes, you were underage, 16. Some people said they were 14 when they met Epstein, but when did the actual activities happen? Who knows? So they were underage, but were they paid? And how much were they paid? I would like to know this, because this idea that they were slaves or something, right? That's not really what happened, based on what I understand this activity that Epstein did. Now, I'm not an expert at it. I don't want to be an expert at the Epstein files. I really don't care. But the thing here is that you have the media that's not fully being honest about what exactly did Epstein do. Were these individuals being paid? Were they there for their own volition? Most likely, they all came from poor families or were destitute. Maybe they were runaways. And they thought that this was the only way out in terms of having some sort of, you know, financial stability. Most likely that was the case. But the point I'm making is that the mainstream media needs to be truthful of what exactly did Epstein do. Did he pay these girls? How much did he pay these girls? Were they really prisoners or were they not? Were they there for under their own volition or not? No one's being honest about this. Now, does that mean that Epstein is lily white? No, absolutely not. Does it mean that what he was doing was wrong morally? Yes. But the thing is there's another part of the story. These women were paid. Now, that doesn't absolve morality. But the thing is that why did they stay? Some of these people stayed for years. How much did you make? Why did you stay? Oh, I was afraid, or whatever the story is. But no one talks about that part of it. They only say, here's the list. These are the people that were implicated. And these were the ones that were underage, that were involved in the network, the 1,000 network of these women. Okay. But exactly what did they do? And why did they stay? And how much were they paid?
Know what the deal is with Reid Hoffman or what any of these files may or may not say about him, Rick. But as someone who has worked with campaign advertising extensively over the years, I wonder what you see the impact of this campaign being.
Yeah, look, this is a very powerful ad. I think that it reminds us that this Epstein controversy has been in the public domain for almost 25 years. And so it's sort of a subtle reminder that just because it's been around so long doesn't mean we actually know much about it. Previous administrations, both Republican and Democratic, have swept it under the rug, which gave rise to incredible conspiracy theories as to why that was and what we don't know. And so we finally come to the pinnacle of this moment, where Donald Trump will sign a bill passed by Congress, started by a discharge petition, with unanimous consent from the Senate, which never happens. And we will now then see these documents. I can't imagine a scenario where the Justice Department can take that kind of volume of activity that has welled up over 25 years and not respond to the moment. This administration arguably has done everything wrong when it comes to managing this crisis since the day of his inauguration. And you just got to hope that they get this part right, because this will not go away. It's had legs when everyone thought it would go away. It didn't. And it's not about to be out of the front page of our attention spans in the future. When these documents come out and with all the search capability you have, we're going to learn a lot of new things. And if it's not clear what it is, the Department of Justice and the Trump administration is going to come under withering pressure to clarify things that are maybe redacted and or not ultimately produced.
So, Rick, understanding that the White House hasn't taken your advice in the past several months on this issue, I'm wondering what you would say to the Republicans, especially in the Senate, but also in the House, who maybe said don't release the files and now have voted for the release of the files. What do you say to them as they prepare for this midterm campaign that is not so far off in the future? How are they going to play this? How should they be prepared to defend switching on this issue?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's going to be difficult for Democrats to attack a Republican, since they all voted right. I mean, save one that we've described who isn't about to have a challenge in his district. And so the reality is everyone's going to stand up and say, I did what I thought was the right thing, right? Regardless of their positions before, no one's going to remember that. My name is a yes on the passage of that discharge petition. And by the way, that takes it kind of out of a partisan political environment, right? I mean, I can't imagine a Democrat who's going to want to say, he voted yes, I voted yes, and by the way, we're different. If anything, this is why it's so crucial right now that the administration responds in kind, because the entire political system has done something we have not seen done in a long time, and that's through almost complete unanimity supported something that is very, very important to the public trust, and now they got to make good on it. And so, can this be completely depoliticized? I think so. I'm not sure that the Epstein files are going to be a political issue in the 2026 election unless the Justice Department withholds the information.
Jeannie, the Attorney General Pam Bondi talked to reporters a little earlier today. We just got these quotes on the terminal. The Justice Department, quote, will follow the law. She said, the law will be followed while providing maximum transparency and protecting victims. She went on to say, and here's the news. The DOJ, quote, has new information. New information has come forward is the line. She did not elaborate, encouraging all victims to talk to prosecutors. What do we think this means?
Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, to Rick's point, this has been 25 years. It's hard to imagine, but we do know the president ordered her to begin a new investigation. Maybe
Larry Summers, maybe? Maybe other people high up in academia? Presidents, professors, Alan Dershowitz, maybe? Who knows?
related to that. But I think there are huge political implications here. I don't think this is depoliticized. And one of them is the fact that we saw Donald Trump for the first time in his second term beat by the backbenchers of his own party, Tom Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene said this nearly destroyed the MAGA movement, and President Trump was forced to retreat 180 degrees and say, okay, vote for it. I know why his voice was not, he had something of a sore throat this week. He was probably screaming his head off at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend as he lost this. He is losing the fight over redistricting. This shows that the coalition has cracks, and Donald Trump is feeling that. Now he's going to have to put it in Pam Bondi's lap, but note his comment on Truth Social. Release whatever is legally releasable. That is a sign that they could try to withhold.
Interesting if it turned out the Oversight Committee gave us more insights into Jeffrey Epstein than anything around the discharge petition. Thanks to you both, Rick and Jeannie, always here for us, Bloomberg Politics contributors, Rick Davis and Jeannie Shanzano.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the drops. Structural nano silver drops for the winter season. You can get it in honey and lemon, cherry, and also blueberry. Very effective. The moment you have that throat irritation, take them right away. Get a few bags for your household and for work. Again, be prepared for the winter season. Please go to my store and get the structural nano silver drops. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. Omega-3. Omega-3 is super important for your cardiovascular health. Helps to improve your lipid profile, helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. Brings down inflammation. And when you do that, you're reducing plaque formation. Super important for your cardiovascular health. And omega-3 reduces the stickiness of your red blood cells. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the omega-3. And ashwagandha root brings down your blood glucose levels and brings down the cortisol levels. That's super important. When you're overstressed, you have higher cortisol levels, and that, when it's chronic, will do damage to your organ systems. You want to bring down and control your cortisol levels. Also, elevated cortisol levels chronically are immunosuppressive. You want to bring down and go into homeostasis with the proper concentration of cortisol and your blood glucose levels. Go to my store and get the ashwagandha root. And when you do that, you're going to improve your immune system and also your cardiovascular health. Because when you're bringing down systemic inflammation, when you're controlling your blood glucose levels, you're improving your vascular system. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the ashwagandha root. Again, you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift. Make sure you use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, you get $5 off any order. All right, let's listen to Victor Hansen about the Tucker Fuentes interview.
Confusion, discussion, but also confusion about the idea of platforming some person or deplatforming someone versus canceling them. It came up during the Tucker Carlson interview of Nick Fuentes. I think we should make a distinction. These are options, so when you don't offer a venue, you're not canceling them out. You're just making a choice. You make a choice every day who you invite on your show. If he is so extreme and you decide either to withdraw the invitation or not to invite him at all, that's not canceling, that's not deplatforming. How about Tucker himself, which is a very different case? Fairly or not, people are going to think you're complicit in an effort to spread those views. I don't think necessarily the question is to go after Tucker Carlson for bringing them on. The question's more nuanced. Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. There's been a lot of confusion, discussion, but also confusion about the idea of platforming some person or deplatforming someone versus canceling them. It came up during the Tucker Carlson interview of Nick Fuentes. I think we should make a distinction. If you have a venue, you're a talk show host, a podcaster, you're inviting someone to lecture, that's a choice that you make, and you operate within particular sidelines, parameters. In other words, you don't invite an abject racist, you don't invite an abject anti-Semite, you don't invite somebody who would like to have that forum to advance your views. And we have to be very clear about this. People in the news that are anti-Semites, racist, anti-American, radicals, whatever extremist point of view they embrace, they get to a point of public exposure because they're quite skilled in demagogic rhetoric. They're formidable debaters. If anybody went back to firing line and watched William F. Buckley debate George Wallace, Buckley had the moral and the intellectual argument on his side. But he was dealing with a man who for 25 years had spoken almost every day to crowds. And George Wallace was probably the best orator that ran for president, say in 68 and 72. And Buckley used all of his skills just to tie down Wallace. And it was a very even debate. So my point is, if you have a venue and you want to bring somebody in whom is beyond the pale, and that person is going to come onto your venue to do a couple of things. Of course, get greater exposure for his noxious ideas, but more importantly, he's coming equipped with formidable rhetorical skill. And three, don't expect when he has a large mainstream audience, he is going to voice all of the extreme positions that got him on the show in the first place. That was true with William F. Buckley, with Huey Newton, Elridge Cleaver, William Shockley, etc. So when you bring somebody like Nick Fuentes on, be prepared that he's not going to be transparent about the excess of his views or the extreme nature of them. He'll calm them down in order to get a bigger audience. Two, he's going to come after years or hours, days of debating people, so you have to be at the top of your game. In the case of Tucker Carlson, there's no question that he's a very skilled interviewer. And when he wanted to pin Ted Cruz down, who himself is a formidable debater, Tucker Carlson did very well. I mean, it was almost an ambush interview, and he tried to embarrass and sometimes successfully so Ted Cruz. So he could have used those formidable skills to cross-examine Nick Fuentes, but he did not.
Exactly. See, Nick is gaining notoriety in the podcast world, the podcast sphere. Ted Cruz is not. So Tucker Carlson's smart. He's going to say, I'm just going to have a very controversial individual on. I won't, he won't push back. and he'll get more followers. It'll be great views, great advertising. Bad journalism, but great advertising. And oh, we'll demonize Ted Cruz because, oh, you're going after, the establishment. Great for ratings, great for advertising. See, Tucker Carlson isn't being an honest broker. He's not there to tell you the truth. He's there to align himself with individuals that will grow his channel, grow his audience. It's important to pursue the truth and the virtue so we have a more robust and prosperous society. God, country, and family. The three really important pillars. So here we go. Tucker Carlson aligning himself with Fuentes by not pushing back like he did Ted Cruz. But what is interesting is Nick Fuentes started talking trash shortly after he had the interview with Tucker. The reality of the situation is most of these podcasters, including Tucker, are dumb. Deer in the headlights. Tucker has that stupid look, especially when he was on Fox. Deer in the headlights? Really? Oh. Nick Fuentes and the fracturing of the MAGA movement is going to increase the probability of the Democrats winning the House and the Senate during the midterm elections. That's what's going to happen.
So when you don't invite Nick Fuentes on your program, it doesn't mean that you're canceling him. It doesn't mean that you're deplatforming him because he's beyond the pale. And you say, well, who are you to say that, Victor? Well, I'm not Victor saying that. There are accepted norms that you don't use the N word or you don't call for people to go back to Israel if they're Jewish, or you don't make fun of people's race in the public sphere the way he did. You can do that, of course, under the First Amendment, but you're not
like for example, all right, Nick Fuentes talks trash about Jews. All right. Now, Nick's, trying to portray himself as some sort of apple pie American. I guarantee you that my family has served in more wars than his family. It doesn't get more apple pie American than being one of the 55 people drafting the Constitution and ratifying it for the United States. Nick Fuentes' family wasn't in the room. He doesn't have the pedigree, but he thinks he knows it fucking all. Beware of people like Nick. Beware. But he's also saying things, certain things that Americans need to pay attention to. And that is over manipulation of our legislative branch and executive branch, but an over manipulation of our legislative branch by foreign nationals, and over manipulation of our legislative branch by multinational corporations. So when he's saying that the Jewish lobbying group, the Israeli lobbying group, the Zionist lobbying group is manipulating affairs in the legislative body of the United States, he's right. He's right. But there are many Jewish people in this country that are America first and not Israel first. And they have the pedigree Nick Fuentes doesn't have the pedigree.
Venues to vent those views and to spread hate. Second thing is canceling. These are options. So when you don't offer Fuentes a venue, you're not canceling them out. You're just making a choice. You make a choice every day who you invite on your show, who you talk to, where you go. But if he is so extreme and you decide either to withdraw the invitation or not to invite him at all, that's not canceling, that's not deplatforming. How about Tucker himself, which is a very different case? Tucker Carlson had a distinguished career as a journalist, as a writer, as a debater, as a conservative pundit for years. I was on his show for 6 or 7 years. He never once voiced anything that was remotely, I would consider, anti-Semitic. His father was a devout Christian. Maybe he would qualify as a Christian Zionist, a big supporter of Israel. He was a patriot. He had a very distinguished career. Tucker Carlson comes from one of the oldest families in California, the Miller Lux 19th century land development company. So he's been around for a long time. And
oh, Tucker, you've been around a long time. Really? Tucker? Really? My ancestors came to the United States in 1637 through Boston. And it wasn't even called Boston back then. Oh, Tucker, you're such an old family. Old family. Yeah. Tucker, oh my God, you're such an old family.
no one had ever questioned that he was anti-Semitic. I don't know what happened in the last year or so when he decided to bring on these beyond the pale guests, but I don't think necessarily.
He does it. Hey, Victor, Dr. Hansen, Professor Hansen, it's really simple. He wants the views. He has a producer that books the show, and she knows on how to drive the views and the ad revenue. That's what it's all about. It's nothing more than that. Same thing with Ben Shapiro. Look at Peterson and how he, ended up being materialistic. That's how they all work. I would throw Megyn Kelly into that crowd. It's not about the truth. It's not about helping people. It's not about saving the Constitution. It's where in the landscape is, you might be a little bit edgy and get views. So there's no difference between Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson. And they both came from Fox. But it's not just Fox News. The bottom line is this. Tucker Carlson is looking for views. And he knows that Nick Fuentes is perfect for that because he's radioactive. He causes a lot of stir. He brings up an important issue, and that is the lobbying group captures Congress. And one of the major lobbying groups is tied to Israel. But it's not just Israeli lobbying group or the Jewish lobbying group. It's multinational corporations that are causing problems. And I would be willing to say or pontificate that there are probably other lobbying groups that are as bad or worse than the Jewish lobbying group, causing pernicious things to happen in our economy. But the reality is this: every civilization that kicked out the Jews has fallen. Every single one. Every single one. And the Jewish people have been roaming around for 3,500 years or more. If you want to add in, another 1,000 years on top of that, or so, the Hebrews, all right? But the Jewish people have been roaming around for 3,500 years. And every civilization that kicked them out has fallen. So if you don't pay attention to history, and my understanding is Nick Fuentes did not finish college. If you don't pay attention to history, if you're not educated, either formally or informally, and you have a prescription of society, aka kick out the Jews out of the United States, which is what Nick Fuentes is saying, he doesn't tell you that every civilization that did that has been destroyed. Now, why is that? If there is a higher power, perhaps you don't mess with the chosen ones. Now, what the chosen people mean isn't that God chose them. It's that they chose God. So if you really want to understand this concept, that out of all the people that were to choose Torah principles throughout these different civilizations, they all said no. It was the Jews, the Hebrews at the time, that were the last ones to say yes. They chose it. They chose to follow and to learn and go through the trials and tribulations of this covenant. But they were the last ones. They weren't the first ones to be asked. But all the other civilizations said, well, we like this, but we don't like that. We'll do this, but we won't do that. Jewish people said, we'll do it all. But they were the last ones. They chose to do it. That's why they're the chosen people. Not that God chose them. They chose God. So the misinterpretation of something so fundamental, and then once that commitment is made, do you think that going against those types of people are going to be positively or negatively viewed by God on the society that's trying to harm the chosen people, the choosing people? Nick Fuentes doesn't understand the metaphysics of this. Now people will say, there's no God and there's no this. Well, wait a minute. Nick Fuentes thinks that there is a God. He's very pro-Christian. Oh, there's a blood libel and blah, blah, blah. Really? Really? Okay. Whatever, Nick. No civilization has survived when they kick out the Jews. None. And that's just history. That's just proven history. So is it better to align with the principles of God, country, and family? Or is it better to align with these principles of hate and nationalism only? Nick doesn't fully understand this whole God, country, and family concept. He's America first. Nick's definitely America first. He's a nativist, for sure. But he doesn't understand that there's probably a lot of families in this country that have done more for the United States that are Jewish than his family has. Now, that doesn't mean that lobbying groups, especially that are tied to Zionism, are nefarious. They are. And Jewish people should call them off. It's okay to say that these lobbying groups by the Jewish community is causing problems and they should stop it. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're Jewish and saying it. It's a problem. But to say all Jews are a problem? Well, wait a minute here. There is no hyphenated American, Nick. There's no such thing as African American or Hispanic American or Irish American or Jewish American. No, it's American, period. There's no hyphenation. Americans don't believe in hyphenization. If you are subscribing to a hyphenated term, you're not really American. You don't subscribe to this whole God, country, and family concept. You're either American or not. It's very simple. Now, you can be of a certain religious persuasion. You can have ancestry that is, let's say, Irish or Lithuanian or Russian, but you're still American. And that's what makes people different in the United States. Nick is so focused on just the nefarious things of the lobbying group that he's not paying attention to all the good things that have happened in this country by people that have sacrificed a great amount for this country. Some of them are black, some of them are Jewish, some of them are Irish, some of them are Christian, some of them are not Christian. There's a lot. But Nick, he's dancing with not just anti-Semitism or anti-Judaism, because I don't even like the word anti-Semitism. It's not even used properly. It's anti-Judaism. And so he wants to blame people, wants to blame the ills of society on groups of people. But that doesn't mean there are certain groups that are using lobbying power to cause disruption in American society. And we need to call them off on it. We need to stop these lobbying groups. But I think that most lobbying groups are a problem, not just the Jewish lobbying group. Most lobbying groups are problems. Now, how do you stop that? How do you stop the lobbying group? Nick thinks, oh, just kick out everybody. Really? Is that the answer? Really?
And is go after Tucker Carlson for bringing them on. We don't go after William Buckley. The question's more nuanced. The question is, if you bring them on, are you prepared to ask them the sort of questions which they are A, going to evade, and B, going to moderate their views, and C, use you to get a larger audience? And if you don't do that, then fairly or not, people are going to think you're complicit in an effort to spread those views, which in the case of Nick Fuentes are abhorrent. So I think everybody was shocked, disappointed that Tucker didn't use those skills with somebody as reprehensible as Fuentes. And I think they hope that he will in the future. Thank you very much. This is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal.
Please go to my store.
Thank you for tuning.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Clarity Factor. Clarity Factor will get rid of that brain fog so you're not a Nick Fuentes. And Clarity Factor will help with your cognition. It'll help with the speed of your thinking and your concentration, solidifying memory and recall of that memory, build better dendritic connections so you're thinking faster. It's really important. This is a very powerful neurostack. Take it every day, drink it with filtered water. But get the Clarity Factor, super important. Get rid of that brain fog. It'll allow you to concentrate and build those neural connections so you're thinking faster and you have better memory. And get the Myotrol. Myotrol will help to build muscle. When you get older, you start to atrophy. Why? Well, you're less active, so you're losing muscle, but also because you're methylating certain genes and turning them off, or the expression of those genes are less. Well, you need to do some resistance training, drink filtered water, stay away from processed foods, and take Myotrol. This has polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to help with the gene expression to build muscle. This is important for males and females if you're 40 years of age or older. If you're an athlete, younger or older, you'll benefit from Myotrol to build muscle and to recover quicker on your workouts. It's a powerful supplement. And when you do those resistance training exercises, take the Myotrol and apply a holistic approach in terms of your health, proper diet and exercise and eating right and proper sleep, learning new things. It's a holistic approach. But when you do that regularly, you're slowing down the aging process. And take the Myotrol and make sure when you're doing those resistance exercises, build up your back muscles. Why? You're going to have better posture. You're going to have better lymphatic flow. You're going to have better venous return to your heart. So your cardiovascular fitness will be better. And what will happen is that you're improving your posture, and by doing the resistance training and that better posture, your spine's aligned and you're improving the density of your vertebrae, and that proper alignment will help with your discs. When you get older, you start crouching, you start losing density of your disc, of your vertebrae. The discs will start to compress, you start getting back pain, and it's a downward spiral. Well, you can improve that by doing back exercises, build back muscles. It's an underdeveloped area when people do resistance training. Make sure you do your back exercises, your shoulder exercises, your neck. And when you're doing that and keeping that better posture, you will have better health. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Myotrol. Now, would you rather listen to Dr. Paul Cottrell telling you how to slow down the aging process and how to be a better citizen, an informed citizen where you've aligned yourself with God, country, and family? Or would you rather listen to Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, and they really don't have any answers? They know how to divide the country, but do they have any answers? Oh, Tucker is he has such a long history in the country. He's from the Swanson family. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get healthy, get on the battlefield, and save the country.
Has increased about 25% since before the COVID period, but employment in the industry has increased just about 1%. So there are gains in productivity, but they seem to be pretty concentrated for now. The biggest macro indicator is, of course, NVIDIA earnings. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Mandeep has to say and looking forward to what's going on after the close.
He's passing the baton. I love it. Stu, thank you so much. Bloomberg Economics US and Canada economist Stuart Paul. All right, as he said, NVIDIA definitely top of mind. The stock is up about 2.1%.
NVIDIA is overpriced. That doesn't mean it can't keep on going up, but when the crash happens, it's going to fall a lot. All right, this is a video that was recorded, which I think that a student should not have done. They were recording Larry Summers in class because he's teaching at Harvard. This was posted 15 hours ago. Now, I'm going to play this, all right, so you can listen to it. And I haven't played this at all, so this is my first, you're going to see my first reaction to it. And it's titled, How Larry Summers Opened Class Today. I don't know what class it is. It must be on economics. And and it was it looks like it was recorded from maybe about 20 rows back from the auditorium or the class lecture hall. And it's subtitled, Point of View, Your Harvard Prop Opens Class by Recognizing He's in the Epstein Files. Okay, so let's just listen in here. I don't think that a student should be recording their professor and then posting it onto X or TikTok. I think that's just wrong. But let's listen in.
Some of you will see my statement of regret, especially.
Let me replay it. It's the audio isn't that great.
Some of you will see my statement of regret, expressing my shame.
Why did it stop?
Let
me play it again.
Some of you will see my statement of regret, expressing my shame with respect to what I did in communication with Mr. Epstein, and that I've said that I'm going to step back from public activity, but for a time, but I think very important. So would you before we talk about the material in class?
All right. So that was what was said. That was posted 15 hours ago. I just noticed it on my feed. Now, I think he probably if he gets charged, he probably will be stepping down as a professor at Harvard. Now, there are many students, not necessarily his students, but there are many students within the student body that wants for him to step aside as a professor. Even Elizabeth Warren wants him to step aside, and she's not going to Harvard currently, right? She's a senator, but I suspect that there's going to be a lot of tension within the student body, and he may be forced to resign even before charges, if he is charged. But the point here is he's implicated. There's going to be an investigation, and in our judicial system, you are innocent until proven guilty. All right? So he's innocent until proven guilty. But he did have, and he admits it, that he has some sort of talking relationship with Epstein. That coincides with this relationship with this Ph.D. that he met at a conference. Supposedly, I think she did get a Ph.D. from Harvard. It looks like he had a sexual relationship with her. Is she part of the CCP? Was it a honey trap? There's probably more to the story here. There's the Epstein issue, and then there's the CCP Ph.D. issue. All right? They're not necessarily connected, but now it's showing a mosaic of behavior. But he is innocent until proven guilty. So that's important. But a student should not be recording in a classroom of a professor and then putting it on TikTok or X. Because when you do that, when you're always doing that, then are you really having unfettered discussion? Or are you starting to prevent students from actually voicing their opinion? See, if you try to silence individuals because they're being recorded all the time, then you're not going to get real vigorous debate about something. So having these cell phones and recording devices And not following Chatham House rules, I think actually takes away from the learning experience in the classroom. So the universities, including Harvard, need to cut the recordings of these lectures, and if found, then it should be automatic expulsion of the student from the university. That's my take on it, all right? But that's the end of my broadcast. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support the work that I do by getting the great supplements, stacking them the way I've been telling you to stack them. A great stack is the probiotic, the multivitamin, Max 35 or Cleanse, C60, the turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans, and the Boomer Boost. That's a very powerful stack to slow down the aging process. But you can stack them in many different ways based on your affordability and what you want to target, and slow down that aging process and help different organ systems. But these supplements are very high quality, and it works if you stick to it and apply a holistic approach. Please go to my store, help support the work that I do, and better yet, support your health. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day. Please share the links. All these videos are for free. If you'd like to support the work, you can donate on my website through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. But better yet, get the great products. I want you to get healthy. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.